First and foremost, thank you all again, like I've said, for joining. This is the virtual awards ceremony for the Fall Member Show 2025. You're joined today by myself, your host. For those who know me, I'm Amani Freeman, the Exhibitions Manager at the Maryland Federation of Art. For those who don't know me, I'm Amani Freeman, Exhibitions Manager at the Maryland Federation of Art. A few words on what MFA is and what we do. So the MFA is a visual arts nonprofit organization, and we host close to, but more so, more than 40 exhibitions every year. Our mission is to make connections in the local and online communities through art, with exhibits and events in Circle Gallery in Annapolis, Maryland, online, and in numerous alternative venues. We provide artists of all genre, media, and backgrounds with the opportunity to exhibit work selected by professionally credentialed jurors and to be recognized with monetary awards. Now, artists do not have to be members to join our exhibitions. However, for this one, since it was a member show, the point was to highlight the work of our members, but broadly, you don't have to be a member to join. However, members do have several advantages, such as lesser entry fees, access to networking, and additional exhibition opportunities. If you're interested in learning more and becoming a member, please visit our membership page on our website found in the link below. Now, a few words on the exhibition. This was the Fall Member Show, and we invited all MFA members within the US, DC, Puerto Rico, Canada, and Mexico to enter this exhibition, where every original 2D and or 3D work was considered. The works that are considered and entered and juried in will be on display from September 22nd to October 11th, on which we will be having a closing reception that I hope you all will come to. So now a few words on our juror. Caroline Lillian Schopp. She is a professor of art history at Johns Hopkins University, and she holds a PhD in art history from the University of Chicago, an MA in cultural history and the theory from Humboldt University of Berlin, and a BA in art history and German from Harvard. Before joining the faculty of Johns Hopkins, Caroline was a guest professor of art history, art theory, and aesthetics at the Berlin University of Arts, and taught for several years in the Department of Art History at the University of Vienna. Currently, she is researching and teaching. Her research and teaching focuses on performance of body art, textile arts, public sculpture, and memory culture, and art, and the critique of violence and kitsch. So at this point, I'm going to invite Caroline to say a few words in introduction.
Thank you, Amani, and hi, everyone. So as you maybe gathered, I'm a relatively new member of the Eastern Seaboard arts community, and I'm really honored that Amani reached out and invited me to juror this show. So I'm going to start just by sharing with you some of my general thoughts and impressions, and then I've just got some brief remarks on all of the works that were selected for awards this evening. So truly, it really has been my sincere pleasure to serve as the juror for the Maryland Federation of Art Fall 2025 members show. There were no limitations on media for the show, and the selection criteria were capacious, encompassing communal meaning, openness, and stickiness. And I can simply say that selecting from the nearly 400 submissions was a really challenging task, and I commend all of the artists who submitted for doing so. The works that maintained my attention not only reflected the beauty and complexity of our present, but they also intervened and reoriented it. I was really impressed in particular by works that articulated textured perspectives, works that practiced patience, whether in their formal construction or the careful framing of their relational ethos, and works that dwelled on moments of enigmatic, fleeting, and funny, but also startling or bewildering moments. Figural techniques and the assemblage of found materials offered really arresting insights into the object relations that define our contemporary moment, often suggesting the significance of historical precedents and retrospective thinking. Meanwhile, abstraction across very diverse media emerged as a strategy to reconstellate historical time. This really struck me. The past seemed to emerge like a persistent fossil, shaping the sense of futurity that informs our present, and at the same time, the present, exhibited in all of its technological capacities, is at the same time disclosed in its contingency on very slowly unfolding ecological and environmental conditions. So with that, I want to move to the first honorable mention, Zeinat Gelli's Unmasking, a work in oil on canvas that, as you can begin to see here, is sumptuously textural. The play of depth and surface, of distance and intimacy is just extraordinary. And with her hand poised as though on a threshold, the figure we see here seems to be pulling back a curtain, in a citation perhaps of painting as the art of looking into an interior from a distance, the art that gives us access to interiority, echoing Vermeer's 17th century, the art of painting, maybe on the one hand, and Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon of 1907 on the other. Unmasking lends the spatial iconography of such historical works a distinctive and, to my eye, very appreciated feminist twist. The next honorable mention is Richard Isaacman's Knitpicking, which offers us a really different perspective on texture. This photo on stretched canvas performs its color palette, drawing attention to the readiness of spooled thread to become unspooled, to be woven into other forms, to give pleasure to the hands that guide it. It's a beautifully composed photograph that calls attention with its punning title to the painstakingness of textile practices. And I just thought it conveyed really great reserves of good humor and warm attention. The next honorable mention goes to two works by Donald Weaver. These are mixed media, Curtis Banjo, which you see here, and Landscape Curtis VS3, which will come up on the next slide. And these I just thought demonstrated a really remarkable nuance with spatial relations, integrating, as you can see, these perspectival apparatuses and grids that are both structural and defunct. And they appear in these vaguely warm and familiar, yet also nearly desolate landscapes. And the contrasts, as you can see so beautifully here, in scale. So the contrasts in scale between figures are just as striking and bewildering as the contrasts in temporal scales. So to my eye, the preoccupation, and each of you, if you're in the room, each of you can also, of course, intervene and tell me if you think I'm getting things wrong. But to my eye, the preoccupation here with the VS3 plane, which is always so precariously situated on these ledge-like horizons, demonstrates a concern for the relationship of technological invention to technological obsolescence. And at the heart of these two works, I see a really intriguing tension between nostalgia for another way of life and a contentedness with its continuity in the present. The last honorable mention goes to John Allen, who actually has two works of digital collage in the show. You're just seeing one here. And I think John Allen is also doing something fascinating with time, foregrounding animal life in a careful critique of the anthropos with a capital A, which is to say man with a capital M. Endlings 01, Dasyuromorphia, uses imaging techniques that get to the bones of culture, quite literally, and that do not shy away from its sometimes menacing, or as you can see here, snarling maul. The juxtaposition of deep space with X-rays and infrared imaging, with this deceptively simple sketch of a complex prehistoric timeline, reorients us in the past of the Holocene. Allen's work seemed to me to take the potential of digital media to a really meaningful narrative limit, illuminating the relations between that which is now extinct, in this work, the dinosaur you see here in profile, and that which is still living yet endangered, in this work, the figure of the Tasmanian devil. My first juror's choice the work of Linda Popp. Again, two works. I was often compelled to select two works by the artists to exhibit in the show, just to demonstrate the depth of the practice. And so the two works by Linda Popp are Wandering Gardener, which you see here, and Tomorrow Will Be Kinder. And of the many works of really marvelous found object assemblage in the show, I found Popp's distinctively cohesive, really carefully collecting both discarded and clearly very treasured fragments of everyday life within the framework of very thoughtful titles. In contrast with the works of a well-known historical artist of assemblage like Joseph Cornell, who I imagine is familiar to many of you, a maverick surrealist who composed found objects in small boxes, Popp is really literally thinking outside the box, outside of square framing, exploring uninhibited forms, as you can see here with the rake, and maybe we can look at the next slide as well. Exploring uninhibited forms and shapes, Tomorrow Will Be Kinder as well, that are constituted by her objects, which I think is great. In their composition and form, these assemblages articulate a welcoming and also firm stance of inclusivity and optimism, epitomized, I think, in this title. My second juror's choice were two digital paintings by Nancy Fishel, Focused, Fleeting, and Flat Out Tired in the first slide, and Guard in the second. These are from a series that explore, or that seem to me to be exploring the art museum as a container of very curious relics, not just the works of art themselves, but also the bodies of their publics and of their custodians. So across a series of interconnected works, I saw a really innovative reflection on the passage of the present into history. And I see that depicted not only in Nancy Fishel's overlaying of moving bodies, but also in her painting's capacities to register the mind as wandering, which is a nice tie-in to Linda Popp's work as well, I think. So Guard, perhaps we could look at that one for a moment, in a reflection on the labor, right? The everyday labor that goes into maintaining an art institutional space. Guard strikes me as less about the movement of the body in space per se, and more about the kind of abstract thoughts that may occupy this figure's mind, to which we are only suggestively privy, but the suggestion is super compelling, I think. And then last but not least, Best in Show goes to an artist whose sculptural works exhibit, to my eye, the implication of the body in all of its imperfect vulnerability in the often disembodied vocabularies of social media. For though fragmentary, as we see it here, as it is registered in ghosting and in social climbing, this body is not diminished. It's revealed rather to be deeply responsive, withholding, as I think we see it here, but also turning and touching. So Esperanza Alzona's works in cast aluminum present us with the mediatized, yet nevertheless fleshy body as a site of persisting longing and tenderness. I think this is really remarkable. And I was really intrigued to learn. I didn't Google any of you while I was anonymously jurying the show, but when your names were shared with me, I was intrigued to learn that Esperanza Alzona is also a dancer. This gave me further insight into a really provocative contradiction that these works capture: the softness and tenderness of the cast body with a hard metal surface and reflecting sheen. And maybe we can just look at social climbing for my last thought, which is that these sculptures can be quite unnerving and slightly alarming. And I really appreciated this because I think they capture a hesitation about the expectation that corporeal fragility be mastered. And so I'll conclude my remarks in saying that in fraught times that feel super traversed by hasty speech and some pretty horrible expressions of violence, I was really struck by an overarching sense of patience of care and even optimism that pulsed through the submissions. And I just want to congratulate everyone in the exhibition and share my gratitude for your creativity, which was in immense evidence. I really enjoyed jurying the show, and I look forward to engaging with those of you who are here in exchange if you'd like to, or hearing you all speak amongst yourselves, because I know it's probably a close-knit community.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the time you took to jury and just the insight that you gave into the pieces. It's clear that you took time with the works and really put some thought into your selection. So I want to thank you so much for that. As you all know, we do upload these to YouTube, so this is just one screen with all the awards. This will be on our website if you want to go and take your time to look at them and really kind of dissect them. This is a collage of the pieces in the show. It's not every piece, but it kind of gives you a good idea for the works that were featured. And then now on to my favorite part, which is the Q&A. You all know that I try to tease the questions out of you. But I mean, in any case, I'll start and just try to get the ball rolling. And then I know that we have some award winners here and just people that are in the show. So if you want to, like Miss Caroline said, engage her, now is the time. But I'll start off with my question. Even though this wasn't a themed show with any restriction on media, did you notice any themes or overarching, kind of tendencies as you were going throughout the submissions?
I feel like I did. I really thought one of the overarching tendencies had to do with the tone of a lot of the work, which was strikingly patient. I will say there were notes of caution as well. There's a kind of patience and care that went in not only to the material practices that were submitted, but also what felt like the kind of invitation to exchange that the work staged. I thought that was really, I found it very inspiring to sense a certain optimism throughout the work. And the other thing that just seemed to keep coming up and that is maybe highlighted in some of the works that received awards is this really deliberate sense of historicity that so many of the artists contributing to so many of your member artists seem in this historical moment to be thinking carefully about historical time. And I was very intrigued by that, just a sense of reflection that isn't simply retrospective and certainly not nostalgic, but thinking about the implications of the past for the present. And I really appreciated that about the work as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's always to see it from the juror's perspective. It's always interesting to just hear kind of the themes that they notice, especially when it's a show that isn't themed. In any case, Miss Aria said in the chat, it's interesting that you say patience because many had time as an element. Yeah,
Mm.
that is true. That is true. Well, okay, we have some award winners here and some people in the show.
I just wanted to thank you so much for selecting my work. And, thank you.
I was immediately drawn to the work. After everyone's names were shared, I got the sense that you all probably know each other quite well, but I hadn't seen anyone's work before, and it immediately resonated for me with longer traditions of body casting that straddle sculpture and performance. And so I was really interested to learn that you dance because the work seems to have a really thought through understanding of the body, both as an interior and a surface. Um, but then to commit to this alarming fragmentation, which on the one hand, I think is what strikes me to be part of what you're speaking about in titling your work with these terms from sort of social media. But it seems like you're still really insisting on the availability and vulnerability and responsiveness of the body, even when it is disembodied through these vocabularies. I'm curious if that resonates with you or if it sounds very strange.
No, actually, I guess, my, what I have is my statement, I, most of my work does use body parts, and it does come actually from my background as a dancer, because as a dancer, I'm used to using the body to express. Um, so it sort of it ties actually directly into my sculptural practice. And that's also what attracted me to the media, because just creating sculpture is a very physical process. And I do the casting. I work on the casting myself. None of my work that is casted has been sent out to a commercial or a foundry. I do the foundry work myself. Every
That's fabulous. I know that's a labor of love. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really glad to see that, you appreciated that you understood that you could see that. So I feel like, as an artist, you know, it's very, it's when people get it, and when they respond that way, and how you can see what I'm doing. I'm less articulate with my mouth than I am with.
That's not your job. That's my job as the art historian.
Right.
But it is something quite special, when I think of Alina Shaposhnikov or even someone like Eva Hesse, who are working with these kinds of relationships between the body and sculpture and casting. It's often with soft materials.
Mhm.
And so there's something super bold, I think, and risky about your commitment to the aluminum. And I did see that you have many other works in hard metals. And I think pairing casting with metallurgy is just very intriguing. So I look forward to seeing more of your work in the future and everyone's work in this show.
Will you be at the closing reception?
I'm hoping to get down on October 11th. Yeah, to meet everyone. That would be
To meet you, and yeah.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
And were you able to actually to see the exhibit live, or
I have not seen the exhibit live yet. I haven't. Yeah, that's
it,
it
it's
awaits.
it's hard sometimes, and I feel, particularly because I am a sculptor, to look at work on a screen. So I think you'll be impressed to see all the work in person.
I
So,
know I will be. I know I will be.
yes.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy how we were able to compose it. We have an installation team, and I think between all of us, we definitely, I think it looks good. Um, in any case, we have a few people in the chat that said thank you. Amelia Aria says thank you. Zeinat Gelli says thank you and congratulations. Linda Popp says thank you. And yeah, I guess that'll just segue into, I just want to, on behalf of myself and the MFA, thank you so much, Miss Caroline. You've been such a joy to work with from when I first emailed you up until today. It's been a supreme professional, very knowledgeable, very just, willing to work and be flexible. So I really do appreciate that so much. Thank you for the time that you took, because it's clear that you took time with the works and you really made it your mission to create a special exhibition, which I think you did. And I look forward to you coming down and seeing the work. On behalf of MFA, I want to thank all the artists who submitted their work. If you got in, if you didn't get in, if you got in and didn't win an award, don't let that discourage you. Like Miss Caroline mentioned, there were, I think, to be exact, 375 entries, which, to whittle that down to under 65 is not an easy feat. So she she had her work cut out. So if you didn't get in, it's no, it's no mark on your work or the quality of your work. It was just, you just have to keep on trying. So at this point, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Miss Caroline, if you have any words to close.
Just thank you, Amani, for reaching out for me and including me in this community. And I really look forward to future encounters and conversations. I
Yeah,
wish everyone a really beautiful Sunday evening.
likewise, likewise. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you'll have a great rest of your Sunday. Get outside, get some fresh air, and enjoy the day.